that missile right there. Check.
How?
Hello. Hey, Renee today. You're new. Hey, Christina. Good morning.
Do you need more length on your cable there?
Hello, check. Oops. It's not on.
It's not plugged in.
Here it is. Hello. It wasn't on. What's up, Brad? What's up, little savvy mama? Wave, wave, wave. Good morning. Obviously, we're later today. We're doing some other stuff. Here, step over this.
Ow, sorry.
No problem. Good morning, guys. It feels like it's late because we've already done a lot of stuff this morning, but it's actually, what time is it? Like 9 o'clock?
I have no idea. Check.
It's not even 9:30. I listen almost every day, just rarely have the chance to catch you live. Yay! Good. Where are you from?
Late start is helpful then.
Yeah, I know. Get some new audiences.
These are, what was that? These are too far back. They need to be on that side of the thing.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is move that.
Okay.
But they're already,
Good morning, Flower Wisdom. Here. What's that?
You put something behind that, like this behind that.
Sure. Welcome to the pre-show. You're from Pennsylvania. Cool. I shared your podcast with one of my girlfriends who is also having similar issues with her son. You've been really helpful for her with not ignoring his feelings and being more present. Thank you. Hey, that's awesome. You should tell your friend to read the book, The Explosive Child.
Yeah, seriously.
It is amazingly helpful.
Game-changing.
And
there's also a
give her the free
podcast.
Anatomy of Marriage code, too. And that book is phenomenal. audibletrial.com/anatomy of marriage, yeah. This is good for me because I tend to have meetings during the live stream. Ooh, good. All right.
That's the way to do it. Check.
What's up, Nick? Good to see you, buddy. I'm glad people are joining this morning. I was afraid that it would be too late, but obviously there's a lot of new people here. So, awesome. New people. Say what's up. Marie84, I think you're new too. Good morning.
You
say
don't
what's
need
up.
to say that everyone's new. That might feel weird to some people. Check. I wouldn't like
Thanks
it if
for
someone
joining.
did that to me.
All right, sorry.
Okay, we ready?
It's called interaction.
Sort of. We all plugged in 2 and 3 and 4. Check. I'm 4,
check,
you're
hello.
3. Check. Hello and welcome. That is not loud enough. Yeah, it is. Okay.
All right. Ready to go. We got this.
It's never too late for AOM. I agree.
What's up, K-Man?
The Cayman Islands?
Long-time listener, first-time joiner.
Nice.
We should
have a radio show? Yes.
A syndicated radio show? Oh,
I'm trying to get on TLC. I think we could have a TV show.
Maybe. Anybody work at TLC or those networks?
I know, seriously.
Give us the hookup.
Come on now, help us out. Okay, we ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Been ready.
Hello and welcome to the Anatomy of Marriage podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
Good morning. My name is Seth Studley. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and today is day 69 of 100 days of AOM Q&A. And today we're going to talk about deconstruction follow-up, and emotional affair, and individual therapy versus couples counseling.
If you're new here, welcome. We have 286 episodes about all sorts of things marriage and relationship related. We make this show because we wanted resources that were heavy-hitting, real, raw, and helpful for marriage. And so we said, flip it. Let's do it ourselves.
We said flip it.
We said flip it. So that's what we're here for. We are live every weekday morning on Facebook and Instagram at around 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so you can catch us there. Today we're late because we had a meeting to go to, but that's that. And then also our show is brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com. audibletrial.com/anatomy of marriage to get a free audiobook on us.
That's right.
I just finished reading The Explosive Child. I don't even know who the author is. But I read that on Audible. I would highly recommend that if you are a parent. Doesn't matter if your kid is explosive or not. Please read The Explosive Child. You can get it at Audible and use our promo code.
It's really good. I'm about halfway through it, and it's just mind-blowing. As a therapist, I know some family stuff, but this is so relatable and so normalizing, so definitely use the code for a free audiobook and check that book out.
Every day we read a review of the day, and we read your questions and answer them. So we're going to jump into our review.
Okay. 5 stars from Joy George. I think you're listening today. Good morning, Joy. 5 stars on Facebook. This review has been a long time coming. I've been listening for over a year, and every time I listen, I feel like I'm hearing words of encouragement from actual friends. Seth and Melanie are so genuine and authentic. They are so generous to offer couples free resources from their website, free advice via their podcast and private Facebook groups, and they freely give their time and energy to interact with their listeners through their live broadcasts. And I've taken advantage of all of these things, and I feel like my marriage and also I, as an individual, have improved and grown as a result. Good. That is one of the goals. Seth and Melanie have a way about them that feels so approachable and down to earth that you wouldn't expect from a licensed marriage and family therapist and his wife. I highly recommend listening to every single episode of this podcast. It will inspire you and also motivate you to strive for a better marriage and relationship with your partner.
Thank you for that review.
What a review. Thank you so much. That is so helpful. Air horn. And I hope that encourages other people to listen, to share with their friends, and to get on the AOM train.
Yes, exactly. Right? And you did say it feels like I'm hearing words of encouragement from actual friends. Side note, we are your actual friends. Mm-hmm. We are real friends in real life, even though we're not, but we are.
That's right. One of my friends talks about like, oh, well, I interacted online with them and stuff that's not real. Well,
it is when you're with AOM.
It is real. It is 5 points to Gryffindor.
Right. Yes. 5 points to Gryffindor.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah. And thank you again, Joy. That was an awesome review. Okay.
All right.
You want to read the first question there?
I will give it a go.
Go for it.
My husband and I will be married 7 years, and we have a 2-year-old daughter. We have never really been ourselves with each other. We either don't feel comfortable with our own emotions, or we don't feel comfortable enough with the other in order to share them. He told me in May that he had an emotional affair with someone at a local shop, which he ended a year ago. We struggled early on in marriage with my own sort of pelvic issues and had trouble during sex. We have been unequally yoked spiritually, which has placed a strain on how we deal with the issues that come up. I say all this to give a little background because lately, as all of the emotional weight has built up, we can recognize these issues but cannot come together on a resolution. He has told me he doesn't see how we can get to a better place. He doesn't think we are in love, which I would agree, because we don't know how to emotionally connect. He feels hopeless. He is questioning his faith, and he often feels like it would be better if he ran away from the problems. We are each seeing counselors individually for about 1 to 2 months now and plan to see a marriage counselor soon. He has told me he is afraid that marriage counseling will reveal that we can't work it out. I absolutely do not believe this and have so much hope now that we are both getting help. But after these kinds of conversations with him, I feel so much weight, like I'm the only one that believes in us and that it can be and that it can and will get better if we both work on it. I feel like he is not committed to us, to our marriage, to our marriage in general. I know I can't control him or his beliefs, but I feel so dejected at times, wondering how it will get better if he doesn't actually believe in it, or that it can. How do I believe enough for the both of us? How can I encourage him when all I want to do is sleep until it's over? I'm a 9 on the Enneagram and he is a 5. Sleeping is my coping mechanism and I just want to shut down, hiding it all. I want to be able to give him hope and hope for myself at the same time. Any advice or encouragement? Thank you for sharing this question. This is really difficult on a lot of levels, so thank you for being brave enough to share it.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Okay, so I have a couple of thoughts on this. First of all, thank you. I want to normalize this struggle. People do have emotional affairs. They get overwhelmed. They want to cope by drinking or sleeping or running away from it, right? I think that's a big thing that a lot of people do. And this is really funny because I didn't read this question ahead of time, but it is exactly like one of the comments in the men's group about therapy versus individual and stuff. So you guys are both seeing your own individual therapist, right? That is good. However, I would highly recommend that you guys see a couples therapist, and also if that couples therapist does individual stuff, that can really be helpful too, to really kind of call you out on your bullcrap. And then also state, like, this session is for you. I know I see your husband too, or your wife, but this session is for you. You and I, we're going to work on your stuff. And I have found, as doing zillions of hours of couples therapy and individual therapy, and then also doing my own therapy, that sometimes having like a person that you just go to like talk about your marriage stuff, that is absolutely not helpful. And I may not even recommend that as a couples therapist. Because
it's like triangulation.
It can be triangulation. Yeah. And also sometimes, and I'm not saying I'm the best therapist, but sometimes there are therapists out there who will side with you and be like, oh yeah, that is bullcrap. I wouldn't put up with that or whatever. And then that can give you momentum to
gives you ammunition
and allow all those negative things to not actually be worked on, but to be like the therapist is joining with you on that and like, well, you got to do boundaries and you got to do this, which of course sometimes is the case. But I've actually had therapists that have done that. I'm like, whoa, this isn't helpful. Or I've had clients who say, yeah, my individual therapist is saying this and this and this. And I'm like, that absolutely doesn't seem very helpful. And then you get into other ethical issues within counseling and stuff like that. So here, I know that I'm kind of like jumping straight to the therapeutic thing that I think is the biggest thing. Like aside from the emotional affair, aside from like being out of love, him wanting to run away, of course that's his own individual stuff, but I would recommend that you guys go see a couples therapist, and unless you've really joined with that individual therapist and you guys have a clear rapport and you've talked about a lot of stuff and you believe it to be helpful and not harmful, then stick with that individual therapist. But if it's any hint of like, oh yeah, we should leave, or you don't deserve that, or XYZ, then I'll be like, okay, peace out. I'm going over to my couples therapist.
Yeah, we have a comment that says, me and my wife had that and it almost destroyed our marriage. Yeah.
Yeah, the counselor siding with me thing. It is. So here's another thing that has to do with ethics in therapy. When we go to a therapist, we can agree that most of the time we are in a very vulnerable state, right? We're emotionally raw. We're like, I've had it, with my spouse, or like how things are in my own life. So therapists actually do have the power and coercion to really kind of manipulate. Like I know for a fact that my own therapist can say something, I'll be like, yes,
it's happened.
Right? Yeah. And then I have a lot of power in therapy, right? As a therapist. And that's not like a power trip. It's like something we talk about in grad school. It's like that power dynamic. You have to be very judicious and very careful with what you say, because your next words could be like, the wife goes home or their dad goes home and goes, I am out. I am tired of your bull crap, and I'm setting up all these boundaries. And I'm like, whoa, that's not the right choice, right? Yeah. So that is a real thing. Somebody says avoiding therapy because it might reveal an irretrievable relationship is like avoiding a doctor because they might find something wrong with you. Get it out in the open to fix it or get treatment. Otherwise, it will fester. No bueno. Yes, I agree with that. Like, oh, I'm scared. I don't want to go to the therapist because I might figure out this stuff is actually sideways and crappy. Well, guess what? You're never going to fix it or never going to change it if you just try to avoid it, right? Exactly. If I have a cut on my arm, I don't want to go to the doctor because it might be infected. And if infected, then it's all this other stuff, right? So I've been talking for a minute. Tell me your perspective on some of the things that she hit on.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, and this is going to sound weird, is you talk about, like, we're not in love. He says that. Like, you don't know how you can work it out. Whatever. Those issues, right? And the thing that I'm hearing is that we don't know how to be married, right? And I'm not saying... So, actually, at the very bottom of this, I wrote something. I wrote, what made you fall in love in the first place? Why did you want to get married? Go back to that. Let's start there. Let's just, like, retrace our steps and go back to our dating days and our engaged days. What were we so excited about then? Let's start there. And I'll tell you why I'm starting there. So let's go all the way back. I remember when we were dating and I was like, this is a totally adventure. Like you're a drummer in a band. You travel around with like 7 of your best friends and you all have accents. You're from a different part of the world. Like everything about dating you was fun. Like we went to New York together. We drove across the entire country and back together. Like everything about it was fun and new and exciting. And I knew that like you're sort of gung-ho in it to win it, like ride or die type thing, right? But you were also really good and really kind. Your friends were good and kind. Like that's what I was excited about, right? So that's what I would invite you to ask yourselves. That's where I want you to start. I don't want you to start with, is therapy going to help?
Right. Or focusing on what we don't have right now. Everything is blah, right?
Yeah. I don't think that that's the best place for you to start in this particular scenario. So that's why I think I want you to go back to what did you think back then? What were you excited about? What were your thoughts? Where was your heart? Where was your mind? Then what I think happened, I don't think it's that you fell out of love or that you never in love in the first place. I think you don't know how to be married. I think you don't know what it's like to live every day with another person. authentically in a raw way. You said we don't know how to communicate. We can't come together on resolutions. That is not, we aren't in love necessarily. There is a chance you're not in love.
Yes, let me just add something real quick because it's cogent. We have never really been ourselves with each other. We either don't feel comfortable or with our own emotions, or we don't feel comfortable enough with the other in order to share them.
Was that when you were dating though too, or just when you're married?
I think it's right now, but that makes me think that you aren't comfortable in those ways with or without your partner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if I'm like have a scatterbrain. Oh, I just, it's because I'm married, my brain is scattered. No, my brain was scattered way before I even met you.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why, okay, and you said you're going to individual therapy. That's what I would focus on in individual therapy if you deem it to be still beneficial. Like, what are your attachment styles? What are you afraid of? What are your anxieties? What are your fears? What are you holding on to with closed hands and not letting go? There's this great quote. It's like, the thing that we need to the things that we are holding on to the tightest are the things that we need to let go of.
Or a different way to think of that is, in the deepest, darkest cave that you are the most afraid to go into is the answer to your problem, which sounds terrible.
Which one is that from?
I can't remember. It's like a Joseph Campbell. I totally butchered it, but I think, and so there's a whole thing we're not even addressing here, is the emotional affair side of things. Emotional affair side of things.
That's a product of everything else.
Yeah, but I just think that there's a question that you're asking good questions, but they might not be the right ones for what's going on. I think there's something farther, deeper into it. Did you get married because someone told you to get married? That's a thing that happens. Did you get married because of social pressure, your church, your family, your in-laws, there's a billion reason why people get married that aren't love. So if that's where you started, that's another reason. Go back to where you started. Why did you get married in the first place? Is it because you were so in love, or was it because someone told you to?
Let me just ask you a question. What is one sentence of why you decided to marry me?
Fun?
Fun? Mm-hmm. That's a word. That's not a sentence.
Didn't want a sentence. It's a sentence in my book. I don't know, but that's definitely not on the topic.
Okay.
I love you dearly, but let's stay on this topic. But I think it's really important to understand why you got married in the first place. Was it out of love? Was it out of joy, excitement, a future? Or was it out of duty? Was it out of fear? Was it out of social pressure? That will help answer a lot of your questions for what you go to counseling for. And I want to say, I don't know what your husband... Does it say what your husband's response is for the emotional affair stuff? There's just tons of stuff here.
He ended it himself a year ago.
And you're just not finding connection. So, I say go... I agree with the first part of your statement saying if you're going to individual counseling, please see the same therapist individually and then do your marital counseling together with that therapist. That's what he means when that's what he was saying earlier.
Right.
Don't see two separate therapists and then think that a third therapist is going to know what the crap is going on in your separate therapy lives. They're not. So it's wise to have it be one person, 3 different sessions, yours, mine, ours, right? And approach it that way, if that makes sense.
Some therapists may disagree with that, but I do have a point just from experience. It can be helpful, and sometimes it can't, because then you come into the other ethical issues.
You can't.
I've never had this before, but I've come close. Okay, I'm seeing the individual as their own, the woman as their own. The woman or the man drops a bomb. I'm like, okay, this is confidential information.
But you can't tell the wife or the husband. How can I hold on to this
information in the couple? So that
does happen.
Super hairy, and it does happen.
And someone says, but what if it is not out of love? Then what do you do? There's a lot of things to consider. There's about a million zillion ways to skin this cat, is how I would say it. So it's a little bit about, they said they have a 2-year-old child. Do you stay? I don't necessarily suggest staying in relationships just for children. That's a terrible...
if it's abusive or volatile.
Yeah, or even if it's... you are you are teaching your child how to love people in the future. Don't stay in a terrible marriage to show your child how to love someone in a terrible way. I'm also not saying go ahead and get divorced. I'm definitely not saying that. I think there are literally millions of options of how couples can walk through this while honoring the child they had together, the relationship they had in the past, and I don't know. So I'm not saying one thing is best.
In this whole paragraph, I think that you guys have, and you might get mad at me for saying this, but just as a cursory glance of how you cope and how he copes, it's like you guys have done 1% of all this 99% solutions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And
you have so many more interventions and kick your own work and hard work and dedication and growth mindset to do that you have not even come close to utilizing, at least from this. So.
Yeah, and the way that I wrote it in a note below that is that you, in this scenario, you're saying, I don't know if I'm really in love with him or if we really feel like we're ourselves or whatever. You got to kind of figure that out first a little bit. But then the second part is neither one of you have found sort of your strongest, most... I guess your strongest married self yet. It takes time. That takes time.
I'm finding that for my own self right now.
We've been married for 15 years, right? It takes time, and it's a process. It's an evolution. And we shouldn't stop in the middle of that process and be like, it's not working. No, that's part of the process. The process is the content, right? The process of personal growth is your marriage. What? Did I say that right? The process is what matters in all of it, in life, in everything, right? So there is not an aha moment in which you would be like lightning beams of joy and angels sing when you go, we found ourselves, we're in love. That's not how it works, right?
It's almost like you stumble upon it from doing the hard work consistently and every single day. I'm preaching to myself again. It always happens. And then it's like growing a garden. You don't stand there and complain. I'm here.
You can't complain about the garden and then expect for it to grow. You got to get your freaking hands dirty, you know? And I'm not, don't start with your therapist. Start backwards with why you fell in love in the first place. Why are you together? Start there. I think it's really important. We have
never stay for the kids. They will learn from that toxic environment. Yep.
And that's really weird because church talks about that all the time. You could like stay together, work it out. But like you are steeping your children in toxic relationship patterns if that's what you're doing. So I'm definitely not saying get divorced. It's great. But I'm also saying there's a lot more to it than what's
I'm not sure. Somebody just joined, and if it's the same person I think it is, this person's Instagram like travels like a different.
Don't worry about it.
Just
talk.
It's awesome.
About the show.
Brad says making big decisions in those feelings is hard because you're thinking with feelings, not your mind. Yeah. On our coaching call today, we were talking about like, F your feelings. Just do it. Just get it done. Have the list.
But that's
those feelings
in a very particular conversation. So don't F all your feelings.
Well,
that's not what we mean.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you for that question, though. Hopefully those answers are helpful to sort of finding the journey in which you process this whole thing.
Okay, so I'm going to skip to the next question. And this is from the men's group. And one of our brothers says, is it a good idea for my wife and I to see separate therapists and work on ourselves before deciding to do counseling together? By the way, we are not good. She wants out, and I had to fight tooth and nail for any kind of therapy. Okay. So this sounds like a different situation. If both people or if one person is like, no, I am done. I want out, right? So couples counseling.
What are you doing?
I'm thinking very earnestly about this.
I have some thoughts.
If you can talk her into going to a couples therapist, then I think that would be the best next step. And then...
Let me tell you something before he goes on.
Okay.
And no one's going to like this, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway, because there's no point in not saying this explicitly. Some people don't want to change.
Right.
They don't give a crap about change. They don't want to do it. They're never going to do it. You can drag them to every therapist on God's green earth, and they will never change because they do not want to.
I've had clients like that before.
Often, that is how we were brought up. Some of it is our biology, but most of it is our family of origin. If we were brought up in an environment where we did not have secure attached relationships, we don't know how to be with other people. Being with other people is harder than being drug addicted and on the street. Being with someone else is harder than sitting in a bar and drinking our days away into oblivion, right? So I'm not going to give you false hope and saying, just take them to a therapist, just take her to a therapist. It'll be great. Some people will not be fixed in that way. So I want to be very clear in saying that there's a sort of a level of consciousness and awareness and like autonomy that you need to reach. Just because you got married, that does not mean that your partner knows how to cope with being in a relationship, period. It also does not mean that they are going to actually do the work to change. So I'm not trying to take your hope away, but at some point we need to kind of like get down to brass tacks.
Yeah,
and not pretend.
That's part of it. And also, I don't know from this question if you've been a D-bag and she's like, these are the boundaries I'm setting. you blew it kind of thing. I don't know. That might be a thing too. But somebody says, and this is a good insight, my husband started therapy without me, and the therapist said it would be helpful if I joined. I wanted out, and it was helpful to go so the therapist could hear my side. Yes. And it says, yes, Mel, some people refuse to change.
Yeah.
So this person is saying, my husband went because he knew that, okay, we need outside help. And then maybe that influenced you to be like, okay, well, sure, I can take a look at this at it. And now you said it's helpful that he went first and now you went and you guys are working on stuff. Maybe, I don't know if you figured out, okay, we're getting divorced. I'm not sure. But yeah, oftentimes that's how it goes. Jimmy Pollard says, hey, my dudes. What's up, Jimmy?
Hey, Jimmy.
Ivy says, exactly. And yeah, I've had a person come in seeking individual therapy, and they talk a lot about their marriage problems. I'll be like, it's a good idea if your spouse will join us. Are they open to it?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not. Okay. If they're not, they're not. Then we continue to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
And if they are, then we're like, tell me your side of the story, because I've been with this person.
So, it helped me to speak my side of the story, and we stayed married.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Your voice was heard. You got your grievances or issues out. And then, of course, if individual therapy is appropriate, then go for it. I'm obviously an advocate for both, but also understand the pitfalls that both one without the other can.
Let me restate something. I think that this is just sort of codifying in my mind somehow. But the thing that I'm thinking is that people who, if you have a partner who will not go to therapy with you, or you have a partner who will not stop drinking, or you have a partner who will not stop smoking weed 5 times a day, even though you've asked them for 6 years, right? There is something to be said about the imbalance of that partner, and that imbalance will never lead to health. So I'm reading Aware by Dr. Dan Siegel, and he talks about this concept of integration is literally the pathway to health, no matter what it is. Integration in your diet, your spiritual life, your balance of work and home, and cleanliness and dirtiness, of learning and whatever. Balance is the key to health. If someone is saying, I will not let you have access to my cell phone, boundaries, that's not balance. If they're saying, I will continue my emotional affair with my coworker, that is not balance. I will continue to drink as much as I want. Sucks to be you. That's not balance. And that will never accomplish the goal that you're setting out for, which is balance.
Okay, so let me just go a level deeper than that. I think we all would know that, if somebody says, I ain't stopping drinking, sucks to be you, that's clearly the most unbalanced thing, right? That's obvious.
But
right?
Oftentimes partners try to say, if we just go to therapy,
then it'll be balanced.
Well,
hopefully in therapy they can discover the obviousness of their imbalance. But I haven't read Aware yet, but I'm reading other stuff, and then hearing you talk about Aware, I am literally saying, holy crap, I am more out of balance than I thought.
Yes.
We are more out of balance than we thought. Our home is more out of balance than we thought, right? As evidenced by electronics, like how much we work, how much we, ignore the kids but are trying to do stuff, how much we argue with the kids, and how it just doesn't feel right. That is out of balance. And it's a completely new understanding. And I haven't even read the book, so I'm super excited to actually, to be like, whoa, this has been crazy. All the while, I thought it was in balance. Well, I go work out. I eat right. I work and then turn off my phone at 8 p.m. Oh, it should be balanced, right?
Balance is not modeled anywhere in our culture. Anywhere. Even from how women dress, balance is not modeled. Why do I need to shave my legs and spend hours on this stuff and thousands of dollars? That is not balance. It is not modeled in our culture. It is hippie culture. It's subsets of culture. It's made fun of all the time. It's not modeled anywhere.
Right.
And it is the key to health, of all types of health. Diet, your physical body, spiritual, your emotional well-being, your spiritual connection to others. It is never modeled anywhere in popular culture. So we don't know how to do it. That's why we're getting emails from people saying, gosh, my marriage is so hard, and I'm just sexting someone. What? And you're like, what do you mean, what? Why are you even going to therapy? Stop sexting people.
Right.
Maybe you'll find balance. But people don't know what balance looks like, and they don't know how to find it because it's never been modeled.
Ivy says, real talk. It is real talk. And that's another thing that's so cool about our own podcast is like we just have these conversations and share with you what like, oh crap, I thought it was imbalanced and I'm a freaking therapist and we have a podcast and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I am relearning actually what balance is, and I haven't even started to read the book yet.
Yeah. And here's the thing I want to say, and this is going to sound super weird. Just bear with me. You might get upset, but don't get upset. So there's another element to this too, where like when we talk about this idea of some people are not really open to change or willing to change. Some people will tell you that they want to change and will drag you along for years, right? And it's an awareness thing. Like it's a And I'm going to use you as an example.
I knew you were.
So you've talked a very big game for a very long time about we're going to do this, we're going to do payday, we're going to do this with our kids, we're going to go there, we're going to do blah, 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 blah. And usually the shiniest thing catches your attention and you'll go to that the longest. But the other stuff always falls onto the wayside, which, whatever. I'm strong now. I don't care. I can do it on my own. I can do it with or without your help. It's better when you're there, but if you're not, whatever.
Right.
And there is a point where I could say to Seth, your behavior, and this is not currently happening, but your behavior is actually damaging stuff. Like your ADD, your desire to travel, you're not seeing the wake that you leave, the mess that you leave for everyone else to clean up, me and the kids. Again, this is theoretical, but sort of based on your patterns.
Right.
But at some point, I, as an individual, look at that and go, this might be better to do alone, right? I'm not saying we divorce. I'm not saying any of those things. But as an individual in a marriage, there's an autonomy that I think is healthy when you can separate all of your like expectations of your partner and just kind of rip it apart. And honestly, what's doing that for us right now is our kids. It's so hard to raise our kids right now on so many different levels. And so if I can actually fully see my autonomy, fully see Seth's autonomy, him as himself, his choices as his own, me as myself, my choices as my own, and then where those choices overlap as a parent, how that overlaps in our home. But at some point I say, I actually do not accept, let's travel other places, let's get more things, let's buy more stuff, let's whatever. And so there's an element to that where you can have autonomy within a marriage and still have deep love and affection for one another that is not unhealthy and imbalanced and what's that word? Codependent. You can have independent love.
Let me give you a great example that I think our listeners might understand. It makes sense to me. So, say that I am responsible or can do way better, like chopping wood, right?
Sure.
I get the rounds, I split them, I stack them, I let them dry. And all the while, I've been saying, hey, I need help with this. And you're like, okay, cool. Tuesday, we'll do it, right? Maybe you help, but you don't stack it good. You know, it's kind of like...
I make it harder.
You sometimes get in the way or whatever, but for years and years and years, this is really an illustrated point, you were saying, okay, let's go get some more wood. I'm like, we have plenty of wood right now. I need to focus on this. And then you say, okay, well, I'll come down there and help you for an hour. And you don't. You sometimes do. You go through spurts of doing it really good, and it actually is helpful. I'm like, okay, this is good. But more often than not, it's been like, just scoot over. And then I finally realized, like, it's kind of sad. I'm sorry. Then I finally realized, like, I can do the wood myself, and it's more efficient. It's better. And this has a couple of implications, I guess. I discover that I can do it, right? So there's like, that gives me a freedom to really go and do it awesome, which is great. And it essentially lets you go from doing it. So you're like, you don't have to promise me you're going to do that anymore. It's not helpful for you.
Yeah.
So don't do that
or
anymore.
you.
Right.
Yeah.
Or me, right? And like on one leg, that makes me really sad because I'm like, I about so cussed just now. It makes me sad because I'm like,
you wanted that partnership there.
I wanted that partnership there. So I have to change or accept it. I'm not willing to accept it, so my other choices change. You know what I'm saying?
Or you're willing to accept it forever. Some people are. Some people don't care enough to change. I mean,
that's not good
I don't
enough
think it's
for me.
good.
That's not.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's not good enough for us, but it is good enough for loads of people. And so that's why.
And sometimes that's appropriate too.
Yeah.
But like for me in my heart, I'm like, that absolutely is unacceptable. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like actually seeing that.
Yeah, well, and I think in a way what the visual that comes to my mind when you're saying that is like in marriage we often tie what we think. Please don't read that. I can't focus when you do that. We will tie our partners like like if I think you should do all the things that I do because I want you to be with me, then I am like chaining you to that thing and being like, but you have to do it, because if you don't, are we really married? Do we really love each other? Right? And there's a weird element of, once you realize you don't have to chain your partner to your wishes and your desires and your strengths and your skill set or any of those things, it's sad, also extraordinarily helpful.
So there's almost like a grieving part, and maybe we're in that right now. Like our coaching call today was very uncomfortable for me, and I was like, well, I mean, it wasn't like super uncomfortable, but I was like, what he's saying is exactly right. Okay, now. And then I see the discontent in you. And then I was talking to myself. I was like, it's okay that she is discontent. It's like, I don't have to do anything to alleviate that or do anything. I have to sit with it and really think about and be like, okay, do these things. And it's a whole list from our coaching call or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, but I also think it's really, that lesson, it even goes to the first question in here. Like, your partner does not need to be chained to everything that you love and have your partner is not a carbon copy of you, right? And for so long in so many relationships, that's what people fight about. Why aren't you a carbon copy of me? It is the opening sentence, I think, of episode 3 in the podcast. What is it? Dr. Claudia Graf Brown says it. Like, why aren't you more like me or whatever? And it's all about our differences and how we don't fully understand, like, we don't need to be a smoothie. We can be a fruit salad. Right. But the process of fruit salading sometimes feels whoa, you're gonna knock stuff over. Sorry. Sometimes feels sad, I guess.
So fruit salading, you made it a verb.
What's your thoughts on wanting to change but not knowing how to start? Are you ready? Okay. You ready for a fire hose? Because it's about to go.
Okay. Ivy again says totally relatable. So, okay, I want to answer this question here on Instagram, and maybe we can come back to the deconstruction question tomorrow.
Ah, sure.
Yeah, because that's a big one.
I really want to talk about that, man.
And I love the examples of
yeah,
stuff.
We can.
So, okay, we're going to table that question. Then, Brad, we're going to answer yours. What are your thoughts on wanting to change but not knowing how to start? In session yesterday, I told a client, and I've heard this from a lot of people. You just made a face.
Ladies first. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's funny. It's like a dad joke. And you skipped. Okay, so yes, I was in session yesterday. And it's this younger guy, and there's a ton of anxiety around, like, oh, I need to do the perfect thing. What do I do? What do I do? And sometimes, more often than not, the actual key is doing anything, doing something, not analyzing to paralyze, which historically has been my downfall. And just getting up and doing it. Getting out of bed saying, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to put my shoes on and start going outside and running and walking. Don't know where I'm going, but I'll do it until I'm tired, right? That is starting something. And then just like the debt snowball with Dave Ramsey stuff.
Debt, D-E-B-T, not death. It sounded like it said death snowball.
Debt snowball. You start with the smallest. And then after the smallest is done, guess what? You have momentum, and that energy used the smallest now goes to the second smallest. And so forth and so on, right? So you have momentum. If you start something, so you want to change, you want to be debt free, where do I start? Where do I start? Just start somewhere. Like Brad right now, okay, after this podcast, write down 3 things that you want to be different. I don't care what they are. I want the part in my hair to be different. Okay, number 1. Whoop! That was a really funny sound.
That was really good. That was great.
Okay, I did that. The part in my hair is different. Number 2, go drink 12 ounces of water. Great, did that. Number 3, what should I do? Read a chapter of a book. Okay, those are obviously mega easy, but it gives you momentum, and momentum upon momentum builds more momentum and force.
Yes, and
if that makes sense. So, sorry, ladies, second.
I go back to what Dr. Dan Siegel said in season 1, when I said something like, oh, I don't know, I didn't mean to ask you this question, but I want to get your thoughts on it. Like, I was trying to backpedal, not sticking to the script, I guess. And he goes, don't apologize. The process is the content. And at first, I didn't understand what he meant. And then I heard it a bunch of times in editing season 1. I heard it over and over, and then it kept kind of popping up back into my head. And if I equate it to this, I'm not going to talk about getting thin and walking on a treadmill or running on a treadmill and actually get thin unless I get on the treadmill. So am I going to be thin the first day? No. What about the second day? No. 4th, 5th, 12th, 30th, 50th. It takes the process is what you're after. It's not the end result. And here's the reason that that's really hard. School teaches us the end result. Our educational system does not teach you the process of learning. It teaches you what the end goal should be. A job at a bank.
It doesn't teach you how to think.
No. And so anything that you do, literally make a list, get a book, go to audibletrial.com/anatomy of marriage to get your free audiobook on us. Do any of those things. That's the process, and the process will create the content that you're looking for, the changed life, right? But I mean, on a more practical level, I would suggest any book by Mel Robbins. Kick A with Mel Robbins. Take control of your life. 5-second rule.
Brad, the 5-second rule is huge.
It's amazing.
That's
Get those
really
books.
good.
You can anything from Dan Siegel. Those are really heady. Like if you're not ready to deconstruct your entire world, don't read anything from Dan Siegel. Anything from Wayne Dyer. Honestly, Wayne Dyer books are phenomenal. Same thing. You have to be totally open to like the universe to read his stuff. But yeah, it's not like you putting on a shoe. It's like building a city. It's totally different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And as you were talking, it's like that you said how school is like, oh yeah, we'll just do crap, cheat on tests, do whatever to get your diploma. It's oftentimes how our culture thinks about sex. It's like
everything.
Okay.
We think about everything.
Get in the pants, have an orgasm.
Okay.
I'm serious. That's all. It's not about connection. It's not about pleasure.
The process is the content. It's not the end goal.
Right.
Like and it's confusing. It's counterintuitive because it's like literally not what we've ever learned.
Yeah. Oof. Okay. Good talk.
Can we seriously do the deconstruction question, please?
Hold on. Brad says, "Awesome. Thank you. Because I freeze when I think about it." Okay. Ask yourself, why am I freezing here? What am I afraid of? Because when you freeze,
it's fight, flight,
you're
amygdala.
Scared of something.
Do it afraid. Do it afraid. Listen to Kyle Cease. Yeah, you're scared. Still do it anyway. I'm not mad at you.
We just see the potential. Yes, we want shortcuts for everything. That's really true. No, we can't do the deconstruction. We'll do it tomorrow.
The process is the content.
Hashtag.
The process.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are rad.
We have to start the deconstruction conversation. I'm sorry, but if you want to jump off this live, go ahead. But I'm going to be talking about faith deconstruction.
Yes,
for the next 25 minutes.
All right.
So we had a follow-up question from yesterday's episode. It said, and the person who talked about cross-cultural marriage and faith deconstruction. And so there was a follow-up thing. It says, the only thing I wanted to say about the response yesterday was that my husband and I have discussed a few times about her faith deconstruction. He is the one who is struggling with it. I have told him numerous times that I don't want to change his beliefs. I'm not going to try to convince him otherwise. I'm okay with his beliefs and how he differs from mine. This is his walk with that's his walk with God and his faith. It doesn't bother me that his belief differs from mine. Let's see. New beliefs bother him. He has said he doesn't know how our marriage is going to get through this, and he even mentioned last week that he wished he had known before we were married that I thought these things. I told him that I didn't think these things 7 years ago. All of this is new to me. I'm digging deep and I feel like I'm closer to God than I've ever been, but he is seriously concerned for me and worried about how this will affect our marriage. Like you said, I do believe it's his culture and religion that are like this. He is the guy that's from India. Let's see, you believe what we were taught and raised in, and hold on. In India, people do not question authority. That could be the government, teachers, parents, pastors, etc. They are right. They know all the answers. You don't question them. So I think my questioning everything I was taught in the church growing up is freaking him out. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I keep sending him podcasts about this sort of situation. I also know he's more likely to take someone else's opinion than from me. So if I say it shouldn't bother you, it's my faith, it doesn't affect you really, he will get upset. But if someone else were to say that, he's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, that's quite a rant. We are currently looking for marriage counseling and also individually counseling. But I think I might challenge him to also listen to season 1 at the same time and to maybe go through the workbook together. Yes, for the workbook. Thank you again for your response in advance. So I wanted to answer this question in detail. I've been thinking about this a lot. And one of the things that I wanted to do, if you know me at all, I love to define words.
Yep.
I don't know why.
Somebody says, Mel, I love you, which is awesome. You guys are rad and love you guys. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Daydream.
Yes, thank you.
Ivy. Nice.
So in this, deconstruction is a noun, And it says a method of critical analysis of philosophical and literary language which emphasizes the internal workings of language and conceptual systems, the relational quality of meaning, and the assumptions implicit in forms of expression. That is what the definition of deconstruction is. And I've looked and thought about this quite extensively since she asked this question, because I keep asking myself, why is deconstruction so scary? Seth and I were talking about this just on our own, this question. And I said, why do you think he's so afraid? And you said, well, it's scary. So why is it scary?
Think about this. Think about you have a house and you grew up in that house, right? You know its walls, you know its rooms, you have memories everywhere. The carpet, you know where the floor creaks, everything. And then you either married or unmarried, something starts coming into the house and slowly taking away the things. That creak that was there, it's in your brain. Somebody remove that. I'll fix that for you, right? The room that had, that you grew up in with the crayon on the wall and all that stuff. They painted it, right? They took it apart, board by board. There is a grieving process around that. And is your brain blowing
talking.
up? Am I so smart?
Keep talking.
And so there also can be a trauma response there and a grief response. And when we have trauma and grief, we then begin to question other things. Well, was this house even something to be so tied to? What does it really mean? And then that is a lot, right? So when you grow up thinking, okay, I'm going to get married and me and my spouse are going to live in this awesome house that we know.
With the crayon
all the creaks
on the wall
and the boards and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
She came in and done repainted.
She's redoing everything in the house, or he's redoing everything in this house. Should I have invited her into this house? Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Right? And then with the super strong cultural ties, like I know what this dude is talking about, right? I'm obviously not East Indian.
There's a lot of similarities there.
Right? And there is intense pressure. And like in Indian country, in Native culture, it's like I had a client that married outside of her tribe, and you know what the tribe does? Literally banished her because she didn't marry within the thing. So what kind of trauma is that, right?
This is current?
Yes.
Wow.
She's out.
That's crazy.
Right? And so, this stuff really, really, really runs deep. So, to this listener, I would say that be very careful and be very judicious around things when you say, it shouldn't bother you, it's my faith, it doesn't affect you, right? That would be akin to, if say we had $100,000 extra in the bank, right? And we worked for that and we both knew that, and it was, and Melanie said, well, I'm taking my cut of it. I'm like,
I'm going to buy a Tesla.
Oh, good idea. Well, wait a minute. We were earmarking that for our future, for our kids' college, for our house. Well, it's my money to start out with, so it shouldn't affect you. It does. It really does.
Yeah.
So I want you to do some thinking, and I'm not calling you out on this. You're obviously doing the right thing by seeking therapy and other advice. I want you to think about that in a different way, right? And understand the possible grief, the possible trauma. I'm not saying like, oh, you lost the faith, I can't even do anything. I'm not saying that anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he's saying that, but it is a very, very important, and then, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you can say what you're going to say. I just need you to stop saying so much.
Right, go.
The thing that came to my head when Seth was talking about his faith being like a home he grew up in is that, and there's like multiple layers to this concept. It's so trippy and I absolutely love it. But I think for many people in different stages of life, faith is what is holding them together. The faith of the church. Like we went to Mars Hill. It was as if those walls of that building were holding us together for a time. Some people don't think or want to grow past that. Like imagine literally like the Christian faith is like you've got strings attached to your arms and your wrists so that you literally don't fall apart.
Not only the Christian faith.
I'm just talking about, I just meant in our life. In our particular story. Like for a while, as we matured as an individual, our faith was the thing that was literally like holding all of our pieces together. It was the thing that we fell back to all the time. It was the thing we looked to for guidance.
It was a framework that really worked well.
Yes, and so
wow.
In a way that like it's the house concept. Like the house is holding our family together. It held you as a child. It holds you in, right? And then some people have a desire to move beyond that faster than other people. So your desire, it's not that I think your husband will never change his beliefs or won't grow in them. He's just not there right now. Mm-hmm. And you're asking him to cut his strings and be self-managed and self-contained before he's ready. Mm-hmm. You're cutting the umbilical cord before he's ready to breathe his own air. He's just not, I mean, again, he might not ever get to where you're at, and that doesn't matter though.
Yeah,
like it really doesn't even matter.
It's not like that's a deficit thing.
No, not at all. No.
Right.
But I think that's the thing that I was thinking is like the house, the strings of faith are literally holding him together right now, and that's awesome. Like at least it's a good thing. Let it be a good thing, but don't require that he cuts away from him the thing that is like literally wrapping him and holding him right now, if that makes sense. So sending him podcasts to be like, see, just look, growth, change, growth is not helpful. I, in our own marriage, have never done that with Seth because, well, there are some things that I'll share with him, but like years and years ago, I was listening to like Deepak Chopra while you were making fun of him. And I was like, I think he's rad. Like, and he sounds amazing. And so there were things I actually wouldn't share with Seth for the sole fact that I knew it would cut the strings before he was ready. It'd be like a parent saying, okay, you're going to walk now as a baby, do it on your own. Like it's not helpful, right? And if you're not, as an individual, like really strong in that and can see everyone's journey is different, the time in which they walk as a kid is different, the time at which they learn math and how to drive and all of these different things does not happen at the same pace that it happens for you. And requiring, like shoving the math book over and over into someone's face, being like, do algebra, is not going to make them get there. It's only going to freak them out. Like, why won't you let me be where I'm at? Right? And I don't know. I have so many thoughts about it. But the one thing I really did want to say is that deconstruction freaks people out because, like Seth said, someone's coming in and changing what they know. They're changing what they know. And that doesn't mean that they won't eventually get to being like, oh, I'm tired of the paint on the wall. I want it to be a different color. But forcing them to get there is very, very hard.
Kenan says, Science Mike, Mike McCard, who was on the show, season 1, has some good material on deconstructing and physiological effects. Yes, and that makes me think of the physiological effects of things like this, like intense emotional things have a clear and palpable effect on our bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Like when Carla in one of our seasons was talking about divorce.
Oh, yeah.
Like the actual physical
she felt like she
pain
yeah.
of divorce. And then like on a cellular and like atomic and spiritual level, it's all science behind it. And it is like amazing.
And that's what a lot of Aware, the Dan Siegel book, is about, the science behind this kind of stuff. But yeah, check out Science Mike's book.
Allison the Great just joined. I like your tag. That's good.
That is
Ivy says the knot holding the rope together.
That's cool.
I've never heard that before, but that is really good.
Yeah.
It's like, what we're holding on to is the tightest is what we need to let go of. So the knot that holds the rope together, if that knot unties, we fall. Ooh, that's intense.
Yeah, and it really is. It's like you're coming into his space, his religious space, and saying, I want to paint the walls. I want to, you have a temple, I want to change it. And you don't need to do that. So he will come to this process on his own. And what I would say is honor your differences and promote your linkages. Dr. Dan Siegel says that in season 1. You said you're going through season 1. So like really feel and resonate deeply with that concept of honor where you're different. If he's in the temple still, but you want to be out in a field, honor that difference and then promote the ways that you can link together through your differences without being bitter about them, without trying to change your partner. You do not need to change your partner. Right? Does that make sense when I say it like that? But I really wanted to talk about that deconstruction question. So that it just really, it was awesome, and I was excited about it.
Yeah,
so thank you for
good conversation.
Letting me talk.
Okay, thanks for holding it together, guys, and we welcome you to join us every single day on Instagram and Facebook Live. Send in your questions. If you have any questions whatsoever, email us straight at hello@anatomyofmarriage.com. And also, we're going to plug the AOM group therapy. Guess what? This is going to be kicking off soon, and it is going to be a paid group, and what we pay for, we value. So much more, right? And it's going to be intense. You're going to grow, we're going to grow, and we're going to normalize stuff and help each other out.
We're working out the details of that. We'll get it out to you soon. But helpful to you, please rate and review it on iTunes. It's very, very helpful to us when you send in the ratings and the reviews. It lets people know if it's worth listening to our show, and it helps spread the word about our show. Another thing you can do is to spread the word about our show.
Right.
Share it with people, share it on your Facebook page, link out to episodes that you found really beneficial. That would be incredibly helpful to us. It's hard to do all of this and then promote the show. Like, we don't have that skill set. So
tag people on Instagram too. That's
and if you're a promoter, reach out to us. Help us the freak out. Don't help us freak out. Anyway.
Thank you, Ivy. Somebody says, you have to remember that you married your partner as is. You can't change who they are after you married them. Yep. And everybody in the world thinks they can. But guess what, people? You can't.
That's
so
right.
don't even try.
And thank you again for joining us. This is awesome. We love y'all. And we are excited for you to have a great day.
That's right. Nessa, catch us next time,
Quit
tomorrow
reading
morning.
Stuff. All right.
You guys rock. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to say bye.
Right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
There. I turned that off.
Okay. Long show. Thanks, guys. Somebody says, I'd be here all day if you... No. I'd be here if you talked all day. Keep it up.
It's really weird. It's like I could totally do it too.
I know. It's really fun. And
not weird. It's great.
Me and Melanie were talking about, like, this is probably the most targeted time that I get with Melanie. So it's fun and it helps. So
it helps a ton.
All right. Love you guys. Catch you tomorrow morning at 7 PST.
Yeah. Should be the same tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're back to normal.
All right. Bye.
Bye. I'm stuck. I don't want to knock something